indeed, we are here. We've been talking about this queen all morning long. I think if I mentioned Stephen Biko earlier today, and we was talking about the movement that he pushed in South Africa, and one of the things that Stephen Biko also was a proponent of was Black is Beautiful. Black is beautiful. Stephen Biko wanted us to know that we're not inferior to anybody. That's one of the things he did. Black is beautiful. The woman we have here right now personifies everything that phrase means.
Amen.
She's a soldier. She's an activist. She's a creative. She's a mother. She's a change agent. She helped the world really, or actually taught the world or opened their eyes on all the beauty they were missing when they looked past us. She forced people to come to that realization that she's not going anywhere, which is amazing. And to this day, the things that she did, the bricks that she laid, we all benefit from. And I'm not just talking about in the fashion world. I'm talking about in the world of hip hop too.
Culture.
Yes.
This woman has been a guidance counselor,
Yes.
a manager,
Yes.
an agent, a sister, a father, a mother to many, including myself. I met her so many different times. You probably don't realize how many times we met, but each time we meet, I get chills.
Absolutely.
Right? And she's been an ambassador for us. She's been a spokesperson for us. She's been a soldier for us. And she's just been wonderful to have in our lives. Please welcome her to the show, Bethann
Queen.
Hardison. The queen
Yes.
is here.
Yes.
The queen is here.
Yes. Bow down.
I'm
Bow down.
honored to introduce you.
What?
I'm honored to introduce you. Are you kidding me?
Amen.
You're amazing for so many reasons. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. My God, you put me in the category with Stephen Biko.
Yeah.
Well, it's not, every neighborhood has their own, I guess you say, ambassador of goodness, and he surely was one, and I'm happy that you think I'm one because I have been one.
Yes, you have.
This is true.
You know,
Thank you.
had to put you in the category momentarily, recently too, of Dick Gregory.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's really wonderful. Well, I'm glad to be here. You have no idea. Thank you really for that wonderful introduction. And the truth is that we do get a chance to do some things in life, and everyone's not meant to do. But, when you have a calling and it happens, it's really wonderful.
You also Kadeem, your son, is a friend.
Yes, he is.
He's an amazing, beautiful young man.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Good guy, right? So he
Hip hop head.
Huh?
Yeah.
He's a hip hop head.
He's a hip hop head.
Yes.
Big up B-boy.
Right? You're a hip hop head.
Yeah, well, I was there a long time. I was there cheering it on, thinking we're never going to make it. I mean, I was listening to Russell back in his day, Determination. I mean, I was in Ibiza back in the early 80s trying to get some kid to be in a studio rapping a Spanish boy. So, yeah, these times to see how things can go, 50 years.
50 years, right?
50 years, and to think about even with Versailles, it's 50 years.
Versailles, when you did the battle
of
Versailles.
Versailles.
And I've been to
years.
Versailles.
Yeah, there you go.
The Battle of Versailles was so huge and game-changing. Can you break down why that is and what that was?
Well, what's interesting to me, even more so, how people are recognizing it now, because for 50, I don't know, maybe for 40, 42 years, maybe no one even heard of Versailles. I mean, it was something that was done. It was put to rest. It was a great thing. We wind up having 5 American designers go to Paris, to the Hall of Versailles to benefit with 5 French designers. And it was just supposed to be a benefit. And it was a good thing at the time. It was Oscar de la Renta, Halston, Bill Blass, Anne Klein, and Stephen Burrows. Eleanor Lambert was the one who actually put this together because those are the people that she represented, and she wanted American designers to be seen in Europe. So it was good for a while, and then all of a sudden the French press started saying that how dare the Americans start to think they could come over and compete with the French. American designers are nothing but just sportswear people, and they're coming up against couturiers, and they started making us feel very small.
Yeah.
So it was really something that they coined that phrase, battle. It was a benefit. Where they come with battle? Now we're scared. Now we got to go over there because we're committed. But we went with all the mistakes that was made on our side. Like we didn't understand that our set should be in centimeters. It was done in inches, so the sets didn't work. All the bareness of that stage, everything that went wrong for us worked for us. So we wind up winning the battle.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah, it was really wonderful in that way. So there, all the programs went up in the air when I came down the runway, and I was in Stephen Burroughs, and they started stomping, bravo, bravo. So we knew then, even though we were the first ones to present, that we had it. They weren't going to get that because they had so much they thought they could compete with. So we wind up winning that. And there was 10 black girls in it. Everyone thinks that, it changed fashion. Some way, maybe it helped change some people's thinking, like the Europeans. But and pretty much, it was, black girls were already working in New York. That's the reason why there was 10 girls to go over. But sometimes people get it confused and think, oh, that was the first time anybody used black models, and that's not true.
That's not true. That's what I've heard.
Yeah,
no?
It's not true. It's not true. It's not true at all. Because they wouldn't have been able to even find the girls if nobody was using those girls. Every girl had to have 3 designers that say yes to them. And I had a full-time job. I worked with Stephen as his assistant, so I got, chosen very last because I only had Ann Klein and Stephen. But eventually Oscar said yes because Stephen needed me to go because I'm his assistant. Anyway, I helped bring down the house, and that was the greatest thing about it.
I helped bring down the house. You better talk.
Let them know.
You better talk. Did you see any changes in the fashion industry that was directly correlated with what happened in Versailles? Can you speak to that?
Definitely. When it came to the Europeans, I think they've never seen anything like that because they've never seen a show presented fashion with music. We had Barry White and things like that, that they never did that. And the truth that it really affected Mr. Givenchy because he made his whole cabine black girls in Paris, so that had its effect. And things you start to see these beautiful girls, and he wouldn't change it. I mean, he was being pressured by the press, and he didn't care. He really loved these girls. So that, you could see that clarity. But in America, we were still just working girls.
Just working girls, right?
Yeah.
Bethann Hardison is here. That's a documentary done by, I want to say, Deborah Riley Draper and Caroline Robinson, right? They did a documentary on this event. It's on Amazon.
Yeah, and also another company, Made to Measure, did a documentary on it as well.
Okay.
And from the actuality of knowing about Versailles, Robin Givhan, who works for the Washington Post, she did her first book based on Versailles. All this came out when the Metropolitan Museum learned about Versailles and had a big luncheon at the Temple d'Or and at the Metropolitan Museum. And that's how everyone learned about it. Deborah learned about it that day. The press learned about it. So it's funny how something could be laying dormant for like 40 years, and then all of a sudden someone speaks on it, and then everybody acts like, how you didn't know about that? Well, nobody knew about it, really.
Nobody really knew about it.
Yeah.
When I think of these times, being somebody who grew up in the 70s, I love the energy and the vibration that came from that time, how we were educated, seeing certain images of you, other models, actors, so on and so forth. And now to learn your story, and we had Iman come up here. Yeah, and Iman really was just very transparent on the fashion industry and some of the, the things you guys faced and overcame. And she brought your name up and talked about a movement that y'all were putting together. I'm going to play back this clip and get your feedback on it.
Again, talking about Bethann Hardison. It's 2013 because I was very surprised. She contacted me and she said, I'm going to send you an email. I want you to look at it. And I opened it and it was a New York Times article. This is 2013. And the article title was The Blonde Leading the Blonde. The blackout of the runways across Europe and America, meaning there was not a single black model being used for the past 4 years.
Wow.
And I was shocked. I was out of the industry. I retired from modeling. I was doing Iman Cosmetics, and so I was not aware of what was going on. So Bethann was the one who put together me and Naomi Campbell to join her, so that we could do this change. And what was happening was that Bethann will take me to the side and say, please don't say boycott. Because she knows my first phrase out of my mouth will be boycott.
Enough of this shit.
Yeah, enough of this.
Yeah.
Right. So, so we were collectively, the three of us went through all the press and wrote to CFDA, which is the Council of Fashion Designers, made sure that they understood it. The designers started complaining and started to understand that there were casting agents that they have hired, that they will say, okay, find us, this is what the collection is about, cast the models. And these casting agents will call the agencies and will say, we're not seeing black models this season, as if we were a trend to be disposed of.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Wow. Do you remember this time period, Bethann Hardison?
Actually, it's my history. No one else's really.
That's right.
Yeah,
Speak to
this is something that we started this way before 2013. Actually, the first press conference I held was in 2007, and everybody it was in the Bryant Park Hotel, and it was in a room that it filled. It was a screening room that they had that we were able to rent, and I had, there were some models only like Iman and Naomi came in. Naomi flew in just for the day, all the way from London to be there. And Leah Kabidi, and then there were just model agents. I had everyone in the room that's pretty much like editors and all. And it was something that I stood up in front of and just sort of like had to call it out, because they had been saying, which is normal to some degree in our industry, to say no blacks, no ethnics. But it went on and on and on until eventually model agencies weren't really coming with the greatest goods of blacks because they didn't feel that they could sell them. So they kept the same girls, hoping that maybe that girl would work. But the casting people would see the same girls, and they weren't looking at anything new, so they would say no blacks, no ethnics. I sort of blame both. I blame the model agencies also for not fighting. When I was in a model agent, I would have fought right through it. Mm-hmm. But the industry has started to change. There weren't casting directors when I had a model agency. And, what wound up happening is that the actual designers did start to hire casting directors as well as stylists to help them to set up their. And what had happened, the Berlin Wall had come down, so all of a sudden now there was white girls that they could really book that was so perfect for them in so many ways. The thing that I did when in 2007, once I made this press conference and it went to the press, automatically they never said no blacks, no ethics ever again. But it doesn't mean that they're still not doing it.
Okay.
So what we had to do is really basically worked. I pushed from 2007, having town hall meetings and other things. Franco Zazani did the all-black issue. That helped me a great deal. She was very supportive of what we were doing. Until I got to 2013, it would slip back and go forward. And then I wrote the letter. I wrote the letter on my own.
Yeah.
I just got, support from James Scully and Kyle Hagler. Mm-hmm. And once I wrote the letter, we sent it out to every fashion council, which was New York, London, Paris, and Milan. And with that, I sent it to the press. Once the press got it, then they contacted those and said, did you receive this letter from Bethann Hardison? Well, at first they didn't know who it was because it was a secret. I was trying to make it a secret. But when they called me up, they said, well, who wrote it? I had to admit, well, I did. Once I did that and I started this thing called the Black Coalition, I really basically was able to get people to tell me what was going on in the rest of the world. And doing this, it really became like a revolution.
Yeah.
And what I was able to do was have these young people who really would go to Europe, see what was going on in the shows, and see it. When you see the film, you'll see it too. Yeah. It tells that part of the story. But then I needed publicity. I definitely needed to pull in celebrity. That calls for Iman, Naomi. And Naomi had always been a foot soldier. She was always the one telling me, come back. Mom, you got to come back from Mexico. You got to do this. You got to see what's happening. So I was able to do that. And Iman has always said, whenever you need me, call me on this. Mm-hmm. So I was able to show her what was going on. And then once, no matter what's happening, she said, I'm going to be there. And so once, she was busy in a whole nother world then at that point. Mm-hmm. So then I just called and said, okay, because that's what the press needs. Once they see the, notables or boldface, everybody eats it up. It's a lot of people out there that don't have any names doing some great work.
Yeah.
And I'm always for those soldiers because, this good thing with Naomi and Iman, this is their world. Mm-hmm. And they want to make sure it changes. They're very conscious people of color. Mm-hmm. So they really don't want that happening because they had been there. They were successful in this world.
Yeah.
And that was what was so great. They were always there to make sure. So we did press, and that changed it. But with that letter, once I sent that letter out, immediately, nobody in that industry wants to think they're a racist. So all I could say is, if you continue to use one or no models of color season after season, no matter your intention, the results is racism. And not calling them a racist, but showing them their way.
Yeah.
Look at a rabbit hole you're going down. No one wants to think that they're racist. So immediately, London changed, Paris changed, Milan changed immediately. And it's still changing. And it's still good now because you see kids darker than dark wearing clothes. They finally realize that you can be black and wear clothes in the winter.
You know what?
Ain't that something?
Because they never thought that was true. It's always for the Nordics. But now they can see.
They can see. Bethann Hardison is here. The documentary she's speaking of, why we are here today, is Invisible, or one of the reasons. It's called Invisible Beauty. It's in theaters Friday, September the 15th. What is it about?
Oh, I hate talking about myself, but here I go. It's about a woman who basically, had this story. It tells what I love about how we've told the story. I'm the co-director with my co-director, Frédéric Tcheng. How we've told the stories with how I started out in Brooklyn, my family, my background, and it actually gives you the story of what this whole, revolution was, that many people didn't know what the true background of it was, or who was really behind it, what made this change. And that's what the purpose of the film was, to tell that story.
I love it. I'm looking forward to sitting down and I'm going to watch it a couple of times. HB wore a blazer because you was coming today.
Well, absolutely. You have to dress for the occasion.
I wore a button down. I was like, oh.
No, you have to recognize your audience. That's what my dad always taught me. So I know, and I have to Yes, I have to be here to give Queen Bethann Hardison her flowers, because what a lot of people don't know, only two people know this, Queen Bethann and Kenny Parker. So I was going through a really, really tough time in my music career, and I needed management. And I come from a place, in fact, I just said it to Kalani and Torch earlier today, I think that we should learn from older people and teach young. That's just a philosophy that I had. And so I had watched Queen Bethann do a lot of different things. And so I called her one day and I was like, would you manage me? And she said, Heather B, I'm not managing anymore. But if you ever need me, call me. I'm watching you. And those words, it's so funny. She said Naomi Campbell said that to her, one of her children, if you will. But I've always respected that, and I needed that at a time where it was a place. It's not a 24-hour thing like managers do, but if you ever need me, I'm here. And I needed that at a time so bad when I didn't realize how much I needed it. And I thank you for that. That's why every time I see you up here, I just hug you, because it was that hug that I needed at the time, but it came verbally.
Yeah, it's wonderful having those girls who you knew back at when I represented
Harmony. Yeah, that's how I became aware of Miss Bethann Hardison management, because through Harmony, who was a sister of Miss Melody, who was under KRS-One, and I just saw her character. I knew Kadeem through television and hip hop, but his mom was just another force.
Yeah, that was a great time. It was really interesting watching everybody come up and going to all the music conventions. What Jack the Rapper?
Jack the Rapper, you remember that?
How can I be down?
Bethann, you didn't go to Freaknik, did you? No, okay. I was curious if he was going to be in the documentary.
Chill out.
Oh, you wouldn't say it if you did?
I hate Sway.
I probably would admit it, but in the end of the day, I don't think I was there.
Okay, good to know.
You know what I'm curious about, Bethann? And I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you for all of the activism that we benefit from today. When it comes to the fashion industry, particularly runway, I think the first image a lot of people have are female models, To you, was there some very specific nuances, differences between fighting for representation of Black female models and then fighting for representation of Black male models?
It depends on when. For me, it wasn't, look, I had a bunch of white kids. My agency was white. I was wise to do that. I had to compete against my white counterparts because I was also successful in a white world. But I knew not to have a black model agency because I knew that people would be saying, okay, who else is on the roster? Who else can we call? You have to really give them exactly a taste of their own medicine, be able to compete against them. So I started out with a bunch of boys. A couple of kids were from London. I had a white boy that I was crazy about named Brent King, God rest him. When Tyson came along,
Tyson Beckford,
that was like a game changer because he represented so much, and it was easy because he was so good looking and he was street. So
hip hop head, another one.
We'll fight you.
So culture, you definitely would. Yeah. You don't take prettiness for kindness, because it isn't necessarily so. And so that was very easy. I think at that time it was all easy because the 80s was very interesting, and then going into the 90s, he came along in the 90s, early 90s. So I think it wasn't so hard then. Just having, I was in the game too, the model agency business, when the model industry was changing also. When a little small agency could come along and change the game too. And then people started copying me, like, okay, then they started getting a couple of black kids, because I had black kids, Asian kids, and Latin kids. But my roster was primarily white. Yeah. Because then I would know exactly what the white kids were getting. Because my white kids, they would call for my white kid, and I could hear the difference of rates between the white kids and the black kids.
Oh my gosh!
So smart.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was it. And I had the the girl who found me the money to start my agency was the top #1 model in the world. She was a blonde girl with blue eyes. So in the end of the day, I knew to be in the game, you have to be in it to win it, or at least to compete alongside and run alongside those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I ask you? When you mentioned Tyson, first of all, right? Salute to Tyson Beckford.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. That's a friend. That's somebody I've partied with, hung out with, came up here and had some real conversations.
Yep.
Real conversations. But when I think of Tyson, I think of all the hip hop labels that were coming out at that time, FUBU and Cross Colors, and Fat Farm. How did hip hop boost the fashion industry?
See, this is what's so wonderful. The question is, I love questions because don't go Google things. Just come to me. I give you the answer.
I'm telling you, that was her answer to me. What you need, I got you.
Because in the end of the day, the greatest thing about what the urban brands did is that they boosted the garment business. It's a big difference between the garment business and the fashion business. The fashion business is the well-known names you all know. The really underbelly of the industry is the garment industry, manufacturers. FUBU and all those, they're just manufacturers. But coming along at the time they did, our industry was sinking. It was in a hole. The industry of apparel, you could call it fashion if you want, was having a problem. They weren't selling. When the urban business came along, it boosted. It changed the game. It really helped. It's like infused energy into the arm vein of the industry. It really did, because everyone was buying it. It was like Willie Smith back in the day when Willie Smith had Willie Wear.
Willie Wear. Yeah.
Everybody was in the street wearing Willie Wear. Everybody has a Willie Wear. That's real street wear. This thing called street wear, I never see anyone with any other than Supreme with the logo. I never even know who has what's streetwear. Where's your streetwear? Yeah. But when it comes to something like the urban business, those brands, everybody was buying it. So it boosted the industry.
The garment industry.
The garment industry. It's very important to understand that, because people just don't. Look, I come from the garment industry. I give all credit to the garment industry. I never say I'm from fashion. Yeah. Because I know I grew up in a custom button factory. Then I had low-end dresses that people trained me. Then I went to junior dress. I did all these kind of things working behind the scenes. You learn. That's a business that really brings everything. There's the one who creates Oscar de la Renta and all of them, even though they become very, very well-known names, it's right in that neighborhood. So, yes, hip-hop did help. I wouldn't say hip-hop, because hip-hop is one thing, and the urban brand business is different.
It's a different thing.
It's called, I guess it is hip-hop,
it's inspired, but it's not rap.
It's not rap.
Damon John is somebody who frequents our show.
And he should.
Right?
And that was someone I knew very much at that time. Yeah, that's a perfect example. But you see FUBU everywhere, all over the world.
Bethann Hardison, my only regret is that we ran out of time right now.
When can you come back? Can you come back like every month?
We could come back every month, and I'm going to keep letting you say, Invisible Beauty is worth seeing, but then I have to finish the book. When you see the film, then you'll see the common thread is me writing my book. And many people want to know, did you finish the book? Did you? So when I do finish the book, then I'll be back again.
Come back. But you can come back to hang out.
Yeah, we'll come with us.
Okay. To talk. So
just to talk.
Okay, that would be nice.
Beyond the lights and the cameras and the mics, these are conversations as a people.
We need to know.
We need to know.
You need to know.
I need to know.
It's true.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that you sit there and I listen to. I said, but that's not what happened. But once it gets printed, once it gets said.
Wow.
We just had
this conversation this morning.
About the hip hop anniversary. So you got a lot of people talking and they saying things that are inaccurate, untrue.
That's the thing that gets me.
Yeah. So
especially if you were there, when you know. You're not hearing that someone said that someone said. No, that's real.
Come back, please.
Okay, you're in.
Thank you. Hey. We got it. We
need a drop.
She said, come to me, don't come to Google.
Okay, what you wanted to say? Okay, everybody, let's do it now.
Bethann Hardison, and I was there. Period.
Just say that, okay? Can you say that?
I was there.
Say
Well, I can't say I'm queen.
You are queen.
Oh, you say that.
Okay.
We got the queen.
Bethann Hardison, and I was there.